Last season, we noticed the downfall of one of our generation's greatest strikers. Robert Lewandowski experienced one of his worst ever seasons, scoring only 26 goals in all competitions. Those are amazing stats for your average striker, but for Robert Lewandowski it was shameful. It doesn't stop there though. Not only did Lewandowski not score as much as he used to, he was declining in general. He held Barcelona back during games, by losing possession of the ball, by lacking focus and sharpness, by always complaining about the ref. Barcelona's last season was a mediocre one that fans will want to forget, and Lewandowski was at the root of it. Being 35 years of age, it seemed as if Lewandowski's glory days were truly over. And frankly, if you would have asked the fans whether they would have minded Lewandowski leaving the club this summer, most of them would have happily gotten rid of the Polish striker. Yeah, after last season, Lewandowski seems to have fallen off for once and for all. However, that's what many people thought. By now, Lewandowski has actually managed to redeem himself. He's been one of Barcelona's best players this season, and even though he's already 36 right now, he might go on to have one of his best seasons ever. Lewandowski's redemption is truly crazy, and in this video we'll dive deeper into how he managed to become his old self again. First of all, let's take a look at Lewandowski's La Liga stats to showcase how good he's been compared to the previous seasons. He now has 6 goals and 2 assists in 6 games. Those are truly world-class striker stats. Last season he had 5 goals and 3 assists in his first 6 games, and 2 years ago he had 8 goals and 2 assists in his first 6 games. As you see, he's doing way better Wait. If you compare Lewandowski's start to the season this season with the previous seasons, it doesn't seem as if he's actually doing better now. As a matter of fact, it seems as if Lewandowski has always had a good start to the season at Barcelona. It is actually nothing new to see him do great in the first few games. In those last 2 seasons, however, he struggled to maintain his form for a whole season. In the 22-23 campaign, he really declined as the season went by. Barcelona were lucky that they had built up a big lead in the La Liga title race, because to be fair, they dropped quite a lot of points in the latter half of the 22-23 season, and Lewandowski was one of the reasons for it. He had been really productive in August and September, but for some reason he didn't manage to sustain those numbers for a whole season. Last season he was also doing great at the start, but again, he didn't manage to maintain that kind of form. Now though, he even started having games where he was truly a shadow of his former self, and he was often the one to blame if Barcelona didn't win. So, long story short, we're kind of seeing a weird pattern here. It seems as if Lewandowski always does really well in the first few games, but then starts declining once the season progresses. If this has already happened twice, then what tells us that it won't happen again now and that he can now actually perform well for a whole season? To really answer that question, we gotta know why he suddenly lost his form in those previous 2 seasons. And frankly, one of the biggest reasons why are Barcelona's injury problems. In both of Xavi's full seasons, injuries were a huge problem for him. In both seasons, he started the campaign with barely any injuries at all. He had a squad at full strength. He might have missed Pedri at moments, but he had Gavi, Frenkie de Jong, Busquets, Gundogan, you name them. In October, however, Barcelona started suffering from injury after injury after injury, in both of Xavi's full seasons. Xavi's Barcelona depended on the likes of Pedri, Frenkie de Jong and Gavi. Because of missing those kind of players, their main quality of football massively declines, which of course negatively affected Lewandowski. Not only did he get less supply, Barcelona as a whole played with less fluidity. Consequently, Lewandowski didn't only score less goals, he also played with less sharpness, he sometimes seemed confused as to where he had to be on the pitch. I mean, his individual quality got affected by the decline of Barcelona's general quality because of injury problems. Now, those injuries weren't the only problem for Lewandowski, and his 22-23 campaign and 23-24 campaign were also different in a lot of ways, but it is a fact that those injury problems did have a big impact on Lewandowski's seasons. So to go back to the original question, now under Hansi Flick, it seems that Lewandowski has resurged completely, but as we saw, he also had a really good start to the season in the previous 2 years. Back then, he didn't manage to sustain his form for a whole campaign, possibly because of those injury problems. So why would he now be able to sustain his form for a whole season under Hansi Flick? Well, first of all, it seems that Hansi Flick's Barcelona isn't as dependent on certain individual players as Xavi's Barcelona was. Under Xavi, players like Ousmane Dembélé, Pedri, Busquets, Frenkie de Jong and Gavi were irreplaceable. Yes, even Ousmane Dembélé. I hate to admit it just as much as you do, but he was really good at moments in the 22-23 season. Last season, Lamine Yamal took over his role, but Lamine Yamal did it with more consistency. The bottom line is that Xavi's Barcelona were only really good if you had enough world-class players in the team. When Barcelona were in a crisis, it was during moments where they had to play with a midfield three of Christensen, Gundogan and Fermin Lopez. Now, Hansi Flick's Barcelona seems to be very different from that. No matter what 11 players he plays with, they always seem to play with the same kind of patterns, mentality and intensity. No matter who those players are, they will always play according to Hansi Flick's tactics and with the mindset of a Hansi Flick player. In other words, Hansi Flick's Barcelona is really all about the collective performance of the team, way more than Xavi's Barcelona, where the individual players were much more important. To showcase this, you just have to look at Barcelona's current injury lists. Gavi, Frenkie de Jong, Araujo, Christensen, those are 4 players that were crucial under Xavi, but Hansi Flick hasn't been able to use them this far. Yet, he has managed to obtain perfect results in La Liga up till now. Dani Olmo, who was arguably Barcelona's best player, got out injured, which was a huge blow. But to be fair, Barcelona are still more than decent without him. I mean, they scored 5 goals against Villarreal, so you can't really say that they're missing him in the attack. So long story short, Hansi Flick is just better than Xavi at dealing with injuries. No matter who is on that pitch, Barcelona will always play with a lot of fluidity over the course of this season. And that is why Lewandowski will probably be able to maintain his current form for a whole season as well now. However, there's even more to it. Lewandowski might have been doing just as good in his first few games as 2 years ago, but back then, he just came from Bayern Munich, he was only 34, and he was still being labeled as one of the best strikers in the world. People expected Lewandowski to score lots of goals and become the Pichichi back then. This season is different. I mean, not only is Lewandowski already 36 right now, and not only are the expectations lower for him than 2 years ago, a lot of fans wouldn't have even minded selling him this summer. Hansi Flick has obviously done something special. The way Lewandowski is playing at Barcelona right now isn't the same as what he was like under Xavi when he was in form. It's more like he's playing at Bayern Munich again. Why would that be? The matter of fact is that there are some key elements in Lewandowski's game now under Hansi Flick that he didn't as much have under Xavi. But what are those key elements? First of all, there is Lewandowski's positioning during the game. Just look at this. These are 2 heat maps. One is Lewandowski's general heat map this season, the other one is his general heat map last season. Obviously, his heat map seems to be way more scattered last season. In other words, Lewandowski dropped deep to receive the ball last season more often. Now he stays more in the attacking third. He still moves a lot, but he won't really drop into midfield. That's something that he was even critiqued for last season under Xavi. He was everywhere on the pitch at moments, instead of being in the one position where he had to be, in the box. That, of course, also had to do with Barcelona's lack of fluidity at moments, which was then again often the result of missing the likes of Pedri and Frenkie de Jong. Under Hansi Flick, Barcelona have a different way of attacking. It's all about combining through the center and having a lot of movement in attack. Under Xavi though, it was more about individual players like Dembélé and Lamine Yamal who had to make the difference from the flanks. Now, Barcelona's attack is more of a collective machine. It looks like a swarm of players with perfect chemistry that is impossible to defend against. And that is the perfect kind of attack for Lewandowski to play in. He doesn't need to drop into midfield. The ball always easily finds its way into attack, where the likes of Lewandowski, Rafinha and Lamine Yamal can combine with each other. And that is something that Lewandowski is actually really good at. Understanding the runs of others, link-up play, making smart runs himself, those kind of things. Flick's way of attacking is perfect for him. He simply gets into the position to score now more often than he did under Xavi. Xavi wasn't ever able of making Lewandowski play like this. And even though his stats might have been really good at the start of those seasons, Lewandowski is now really performing better in general. He really never has been this good before in a Barcelona kit. That's not where it stops though, cause not only is Hansi Flick getting the most out of Lewandowski, he's having a similar impact on players like Rafinha. You can really pick any attacker you want. Everyone is just thriving under Hansi Flick because he allows the players the freedom to roam, to combine and to move a lot. Because of that, Barcelona's attack is more dangerous in general than it has ever been under Xavi. And you know what that means for Lewandowski? More supply, and more assists as well. When you're part of a perfectly functioning machine, you will always do better, regardless of how good or bad you're playing yourself. When the player next to you gets better, then so will you. Hansi Flick has managed to help Lewandowski in this way, by also helping the likes of Rafinha play to their potential. So yeah, Prime Lewandowski might actually be back. Wait, really? Before saying that Prime Lewandowski will return, we should stay a little realistic here. Hansi Flick has helped Lewandowski improve again, but there are some things that even Hansi Flick cannot change. Lewandowski is 36. which means that he is getting older, slower and less sharp at moments. Because yeah, even now that he's playing well, you can see at moments that he's not at his very best anymore. He loses more sprinting duels, he makes less runs. That's sadly a decline in his game that nobody will ever be able to change. So we won't really see the actual prime Lewandowski ever again, but he has definitely been able to redeem himself this season. Hansi Flick has turned Barcelona into more of a collective machine, and that suits Lewandowski. Regardless of any injury problems in the squad, Barcelona under Hansi Flick seem to always play with the same fluidity and mentality, and there's just a lot more freedom and movement in attack than under Xavi. Because of all those things, Lewandowski has managed to turn into his old self again, and he will probably also be able to finally maintain his form for a full season now. So, that was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion on Lewandowski in the comments down below. Força Lewandowski, and of course, have a good day.